Just listening. Yeah,
Hey, yeah, this is
Oh, yeah, that's
no. There's two of us now. Two more. No. I don't get started.
Where's everybody? Are you still at Washington, Colorado?
Yes, Chairman and Delegate Yellow Hair. This is Delegate Claudia. I'm on the line.
She get last night. There's three now. The one more, then we'll get started.
Chair Henio, this is Delegate Brown. I'm on the line.
Okay, last night. Thank you, Kenna. So Ramona, are you on the line with us?
Good afternoon, Chairman Henio. Yes, I am.
Yes, if you do an official roll call, I can establish a quorum, and then from there we'll continue with business.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Henio and members of the Budget and Finance Committee. Roll call for the special meeting, date June 22nd, 2021. Jamie Henio, and your location, please.
I'm President. I am driving through Gallup, New Mexico.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Henio. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., and your location, please. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, and your location, please.
Window Rock, Arizona.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, and your location, please.
I'm present. I'm going to Windsor Rock.
Okay.
I'm a weekly rep.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Elmer P. Begay. Honorable Amber Kenneth Bott-Crotty, and your location, please.
Yes, this is Delegate Amber Kenneth Bott-Crotty. I'm calling in from Sheep Springs, Navajo Nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shadeja. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, and your location, please.
Delegate Brown is present. I am calling in from Kayenta, driving to Chilchapito.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Chairman Henio, we have 5 members present upon entering roll call and 1 member not entering roll call. Chairman.
Vice Chair Smith calling in. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Janella. Your location, please.
Ana, Arizona.
Thank you, Janella. Chairman, we have 6 members present upon roll call. Chairman.
Kashika, thank you for that roll call. We do have 6 members present, constituting the quorum, so therefore we will move forward with our special meeting. Call this meeting to order at 2:09 p.m. on June 22nd, 2021. And with that, though, let's move forward to Vice Chair Smith, if you would, do us the honor.
Thank you. Budget and Finance. Other the vintage is one lot of the national. And art and father do art and nothing. Art the car deal with all the Hinanda, the law. Bishop Ando, not Dean Deed at the Ninigi, although the BNF committee members on Ninigi, but for the Sando executive, they thought not only done that, it's in done Ninigi, so although Hashkaj, so so the Sun, it's the should be in a shoulder. He can't undo quarter the Yagi agenda also so na che hinan sholo do ben ye ha lana ni zindi de ben ye gi beso ko de na che da ato di ni gi ado shiti na sholo na ok ai si de sto ado skito was kazna do tle shiti na sholo na ok zede da obahanne chita kid hat energy del condition toasting da no she na she da to che kata days ido e ha adilis digena shmoda ade da hol to was kazo kosto na haskendo le shai such I see hot could da dry ashmoda shtiena shmol na ka I ka dil ko ye ha helni ta hodo na tloshi chida that egi ado to ha ina at ko tours to on hayat eto ashwalish dien ashid awis to ya hulna na to te I see lana nitsen I would have but so to sun shidien ashida masan don hit shadow edan lenigi she thought so to sun shida to na to place shidien ko I would have to sun shidien DIC largest andigi a total needs ashini ko yalgi the khatis day Washington day hele e bendo nesto so when you stayed at the Atlanta he thought that the ne lana needs ko that egi band date either so fish masan could akuchen ginan the shai si satin das the AIC band the case so halet out a nasty cut the no isn't dale nesto not ado hasan ben ye ado ina ben ye le ko hoan hodal kan ben ye gelchin so keda nala keda masan hit sheda that egi no Bacado was so yali ben ye stayed on it. I got that to the Cincinnati and a shoulder. A boy wouldn't so I see one sort of this Ian. I see one some bincha. Although Hela yet bishop and that's aid the sneezer. Jesus Christ, amen.
Yeah, la. Vice Chair Smith. Kudan Khatidin is the Nigi Ada Jonoi Khatidin. The Natia Ko A did the generally does so the national kata. The visiting guests and recognizing officials. Earlier, they had the Delegate Eugene So from Chinle, Arizona. He's on the line with us. Delegate Pernell Halona from Tohachi, Nashchiri communities. Besides the two.
Che, this is Delegate Daniel So.
Not that Che.
Hey. Oh.
Hey, last door. Denida, Tragon, which one? Yeah, last. The Kudoya chapter partners, the left. President Niz from Tlegato, Arizona. I'm on the line now. Lily Niz. The chapter officials, another Ispa. That Denida, Kushina. We do have our legislative branch staff, Peggy Nakle and Ramona Nelson, A. Connie, Kaina, the Office of Legislative Counsel, Sean.
Mr. Chair, this is Lurleen Sapahi with the Office of Legislative Counsel. I'm on the line.
Thank you, Mr. Pai, for being with us today, this afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Appreciate that. The Nomination Department Justice. Navajo Nation Department of Justice. Anita. The Office of Management and Budget, Sean. Office of Management and Budget. What about the Office of the Navajo Nation Office of the Controller?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Elizabeth Bigay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Gay. Do we have the Office of the President, Vice President, staff on the line? Office of the President, Vice President? What about Navajo Nation Executive Branches, program managers or staff?
This is Leonard Sosi with OPVP. Yeah, Station and Die.
Oh, I know. Kushina, Anita, so that moving forward on our agenda, we have a proposal for us. Thank you.
Chair Himio and members of the Budget and Finance Committee, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. The proposed agenda for the Budget and Finance Committee of the Navajo Nation Council, June 22nd, 2021. It's a special meeting. Presiding is Jamie Himio, Chairperson, Raymond Smith Jr., Vice Chairperson. And it's via teleconference, Window Rock, Navajo Nation, Arizona. 1, call the meeting to order, the roll call, the invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journal, none. 5, receive reports, none. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, legislation number 0089-21. B, legislation number 0091-21. C, legislation number 0092-21. And D, legislation number 0094-21. 8, close of the session, written announcements, adjournment. The next regular meeting is July 6, 2021. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for that reading. With this committee members, Budget and Finance, is there a motion to accept the proposed agenda?
Motion, Delegate Crotty.
Motion by Shananta, Delegate Amber Kinasla-Kadi. Is there a second?
Second, Delegate Bigay.
Go ahead, Shananta. Delegate Elmer P. Gay, second. So we do have a motion and second. Committee, Budget and Finance, is there any discussion regarding the proposed agenda? I'll call for the question to accept the agenda as read. Ramona, if you would lead us on the roll call vote.
Sure, Chairman, roll call vote for approving the agenda. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Raymond Smith. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer P.
Yellowhair votes green. I was on mute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote? Honorable Amber and Kenneth Barkhadi, how do you vote?
Delegate Amber Kenneth-Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Amber Kenneth Barkhadi votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable
I vote
Elmer
green.
P. Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote? Chairman, we have 4 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, 1 member not voting, and chairman not voting, Chairman.
Thank you again for that. A roll call vote. We do have a due pass on our agenda. Vote in favor, 4 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. And therefore, moving forward on our agenda, we do have next item on our agenda is reviewing the top journals. There's none. Under reports, there is none. And then old business, there is none. On item 7, new business legislation 0089-21. Kodo Shinanta, Vice Chair Raymond Smith Jr. He is the prime sponsor and he is present. So therefore, Peggy, if you would read the legislation into the record for us. Peggy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Legislation number 0089-21 is a proposed Navajo Nation Council resolution, and it's been assigned to Resources and Development Committee, thence Budget and Finance Committee. 24th Navajo Nation Council, 3rd year 2021, introduced by Raymond Smith Jr., prime sponsor. Tracking number 0089-21, an action relating to Resources and Development and Budget and Finance Committees. Approving a change in resolution number CAP 3518 for Klagetoh chapter by deleting the Head Start project and adding metal storage building, dedicated internet access, and power line extension projects. So we have the attachments are the exhibit is the CPMD form, the Klagetoh chapter resolution is also attached, and another copy of the capital projects form, the memo from the Legislative Council, the Internet Public Review. There were no comments on the first report, and then the Resources and Development Committee report has a due pass, no minutes. The vote tally sheet is also included, and they are all signed documents, Mr. Chair. Forgot to say that the legislation was electronically read into the record.
Okay, thank you for that reading. And therefore, with that, committee members, Budget and Finance Committee, is there a motion to accept this resolution?
Yellow hair.
Commissioner Delegate Jimmy Yellow Hair. Motion, is there a second?
Delegate Elmer P. Begay, second.
Delegate Elmer P. Begay, second. So we do have a motion and second on this resolution. Therefore, with that, committee members, everything is in place. I'll yield the floor to Vice Chair Smith. You have introduced the legislation to the committee.
Chair Henyo, and also the Budget and Finance Committee members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Good afternoon, and staff, and those that are with us this afternoon. Thank you for listening in on this Budget and Finance special meeting today. The reason why we're requesting this is because $400,000 was the CAP 35-18 was provided for the project in Klagetoh back in time that this was passed to fund a Head Start. And Head Start was the number one priority that was at EDA. But according to Head Start and the children that are counted out there, it wasn't feasible to utilize this money at the time for Head Start. But before I start, I'd like to make recognition to the chapter officials and also our chapter coordinator, Edward Clark, for working extensively extensively on this project, on the $400,000. There is the projects that are listed, 1, 2, and 3, as was mentioned through the introduction of the 008921. The chapter coordinator Edward Clark and chapter officials should say Leland Nez and also Shanetta worked on this, and also worked on this with the in order to get this going for the Flagato area. And there was a resolution that was passed too for the legislation regarding this change order. So I want to recognize Leland Nez and Leon Jackson as the vice president, and also Maureen Woodman as the secretary treasurer, and also our community community service coordinator, Edward Clark Jr., who worked on this to get this going. I don't want to leave out anybody on behalf of this. I know resource development, we kind of had mentioned this during the resource development committee, and I didn't intentionally want to exclude anybody in this, but I just want to make sure that I do recognize all those that were involved in this and getting this going. As you look at Exhibit 2, there's a Flagato chapter resolution supporting this, and people wanted to change the $400,000 to put in 3 projects. One is for the metal storage, and number 2 is the internet access. Our kids out there have internet access, and then power line extension. Power line is needed out there in a total amount of $400,000. The metal storage will be $118,684. That's design, construct, and equip. And the dedicated internet access will be $96,800, and that will be design, construct, and equip. And the last one, number 3, is $184,516 to give power line extensions. That's towards Boggy Lake area, design and construct, and so that the folks out there can get their electricity. And this was signed back in March 28, 2021 by the chapter president, Che Leland Nez, and it was motioned by our chapter membership, Ella Shirley, and second by Rosita Key. And in there we Exhibit 3 was for the Citizen Project Amendment Certification, CAP 35-18, was submitted after that April 8, 2021, and the signature that was provided was May 6, 2021. So that went through the CPM project manager, Irma Julian, and the CPMB department manager, James Atakai, back in April 14, 2021. So with that, that provides us to change the development of what we want on behalf of this. And I'm hoping that the chapter officials are on board. Maybe Mr. Clark's on board, but this is project number 141 under Exhibit 1. That was for the Head Start to develop the Head Start at $400,000 under Exhibit D under CAP 35-18, which is now Exhibit one, not I. So that is the gist of what we're trying to do with Flagatosh and so I don't know if Che's on board or my other Che. Maybe I can give him some time. I don't know if Mr. Clark is on board or if the chapter officials are on board, but I'd like them to speak on this behalf and to get your blessing to pass this legislation so that we can provide this money, to get this money to use for the 3 items that we had mentioned, using the citizen money. And we appreciate Navajo Nation Council for setting this back in the 23rd Council, and now here it's in the 24th Navajo Nation Council, and Budget and Finance Committee is the final authority. So I appreciate that we're on this topic right now, and once this is signed, and this will be given the the opportunity to get these things going. So no further from me. I'd like to turn over the floor to either the chapter coordinator or either the chapter president of the Flagito chapter. Thank you.
This is Leland. Kadado shaho late Ella. Okay, Hakoshina. So shao Sunantano Senigi Besaba Hanya Gido Besonage Zogi. When I saw Tani Beswas and an Senigi, the Quishi A. Tanda Gio and Habitato in Beso to Velana, you say. Call the Tatnas the law, which has Arbe and has it all Beso that your kiddy. Baba and so Casey, oh, Bao Shao, Sideo, Sidet, do Tapa and Slido, Toricini, Basus Chindo, then the Kinda Chido, Shinda Sunale. What I and Slido in the standards the day who the it was Agi a large partner large Sata the Shila course a call conde a codida da no way they should be done and they conde here yet not in it beneath in Hillaget Tito quite now has beneath I see Kago late or that the Nisa no a by Ilcho Ilia. Sunday Coenia a honda che. He basebars Anna Raymond a conjina. Did that didn't is that the mail Sagi to a Besogi Sagon he cut all was. I had other deal Nisto had other Cata deal Nista di Noya or even what are a Cata Hilia Cotida John Rede a Dinada a heavy equipment give a lot as little catching neb by the nation, he shot Catholic, it was Agi. Because a day beyond the pastor Leshigido, the Bahas, Nibansa, Kisipin in Nago, a metal building, Gisa. Baba Jadi, Liso Albachi deal, if you got Ayat, Eto, Listo, in the Bahaya, do Naso the Donna. So Kabansa kiss. Even in a hotel, a Yadal and Haley Hagi Lini at Aban, see kiss in Nago, a hotel, storage deal, Lisa di ni. I don't know, a did it internet service, Gito, Yego, a chon, and distinct that's what that nisho, that nishki, in that other never gonna has Agi. It's a day of Ado and Ado Kido in here, not so. Ostan Linigi, high school, junior high, elementary, Latashin, Naso Dal Tada down what does ta. What that a Babansa kiss, Ado did a learn Nido, need Tatadel do, Edo, and Nibitazla. Now sleep, Talo, so that no, but just all being his hand, Beninago, Hashin, how you see it all, dog, Benica, Beninago, the internet, never how long we at a Juniton. What a power line extension. A do Niki, a Yachitik and the way Tana has Hashin, so a Tana will be Hatavisto. Hat Ada had Nisa and Hinley, particularly any Lahan Hin had a Huljishla. Johat Nisa had Ada. The Cotin Hita had a torture. Did it by Nick Shadigi there in the remote area towards Greasewood area. A co odd in natural pattern. A co a power line, a basis up and dog, so dog hot all day. So what a hala ajik satabani jo ani beta hagi and the beta I don't know beta hat nile as a what any hello they at a what are the adna hayado da holia be at a hat nile so what a do hello health issues health the illness the hello that the hako ko da ba sa case ko da ni ko the last Tuesday that the resource development committee do that that's it so yeah and no yeah hai la da si ko si ko ya da did ben ya hade na den ni kedi do da na da ni snitten ko da sin ni so ja that na de ba an le na atli do le tsara hat sam na hol age jo hot ko bespas an ni si do da hot ho ni so den ni lido ni best a hol do night aro anil so ja ein da has di ko da anil so den ma ba jo ba initen aro in da panel spait bail do hot heit la ko da ba has di do this question at da cast in igi le togi aro in da nat anil da si do hot hot hidden snada hisil sa si hot da le nafte da ho da ba nas kanske sånt annars sinigi och da sin jon haban så jon hada ja det hon så dåligt ko jag har så ha agi
Negotiation last month had Leland has do we have Edward Clark on the phone with us?
Vice Chair, sir. I believe maybe we could just go to if there's any questions, maybe next committee might want to go to our quick vote.
I'll go see Chair. Hold on. Thank you.
I'll go see here. Shnanda, Budget Finance Committee. There's already a motion and there's already a motion in the second. There's already a motion in the second. Case signed down. Is there any questions or comments? This is CAP 3518 that we usually entertain as a change notice, and all the signatures and forms are there. Shananda, Budget and Finance Committee. Are there any questions for Vice Chair Smith? Tanoya Ramona, if you would lead us in a roll call vote.
Roll call vote for legislation number 0089-21. Delegate Raymond Smith, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Delegate Smith. Votes green. Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
I'll vote green. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. Votes green. Delegate Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
Vote green. Officer, I vote green.
Thank you.
I vote green.
Thank you, Delegate Elmer P. Begay. Votes green. Delegate Amber Kenneth-Crotty, how do you vote?
Delegate Amber Kenneth-Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Amber Kenneth-Crotty votes green. Delegate Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green.
Thank you. Delegate Nathaniel Brown votes green. Chairman, we have 5 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, Chairman not voting. Chairman?
Okay, thank you for that roll call vote. This legislation 0089-21 receives a due pass from the Budget and Finance Committee. Therefore, we are the final committee here. So I can't allow for your votes. With this next legislation 0091-21, I'll be sponsoring that. So Vice Chair Smith, if you would take the virtual gavel.
And thank you, Honorable Chair Henyo. I'll take the gavel. I just want to say thank you from Flagato, and thank you for the votes, and thank you for supporting our efforts on behalf of legislation number 008921. Legislation number 0091-21. Peggy, could you read that into the record, Ashmona?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair and members of the Budget and Finance Committee. Legislation number 0091-21 is a proposed Navajo Nation Council resolution. and it's been assigned to Resources and Development Committee, thence Budget and Finance Committee, thence Nabikia Committee, thence Navajo Nation Council. 24th Navajo Nation Council, third year 2021, introduced by Jamie Hinio and co-sponsored by Wilson Stewart Jr. as tracking number 0091-21. An action relating to Resources and Development, Budget and Finance, Nabikia Committees, and Navajo Nation Council allocating $2 million in citizen funds to the Canoncito Band of Navajos Health Center, Incorporated, for the Canoncito Clinic Expansion Project, approving and adopting the Canoncito Clinic Expansion Project Expenditure Plan pursuant to 12 NNC Section 2501 through 2508. So this has been electronically read into the record, and it includes the exhibits that are mentioned in the legislation. The project request is Exhibit A, then the budget is Exhibit B, and then therefore after that it has the design materials. Some of the schematics that are included in here are attached, and then the Legislative Council memo is also attached. The Internet Public Review, the first report, there were no comments. The second report has 11 people that are supporting comments that are attached. And then the Resources and Development Committee has a due pass with no amendments, and the vote tally sheet has a due pass with no amendments, and they're all signed documents. So everything's in order, Vice Chair. That concludes the reading.
Thank you, Peggy, for the reading of the legislation 0091-21. Committee members of Budget and Finance need a motion.
Motion, Delegate Crotty.
I'll second to Honorable Crowdy, Delegate Yellowhair.
Thank you, Budget and Finance Committee members. We have a motion by Honorable Crotty and second by Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. We have the sponsor with us, Honorable Chair Henyo, on behalf of this request for the use of this funds from the citizen. You have 20 minutes, Shananda.
Here, National Vice Chair Smith, for facilitating the meeting, and also Shananda Budget and Finance Committee. Peso querida, $2 million from the Citizen Fund account. The DA, our easternmost chapter, Tojile chapter, they have a health facility that was built and to service the community of Tojile. But as time moved along, and with this whole pandemic that happened, and also with the scarcity of Indian health services in the Albuquerque area, along with many Navajo citizens living in Albuquerque, not just from Tojile, but from other parts of the Navajo Nation. This health facility has outgrown itself, meaning that the customer base, the patient base has grown. Therefore, there's a need to expand the services of the clinic by expanding the infrastructure. So the community of Tojile and the Canoncito Health Board took it upon themselves to solicit for funding from different sources, either through their own accounts, the IHS, the state of New Mexico, and so forth. And they managed to pool some money together. And last year, they had asked for assistance from the Navajo Nation in the amount of $3.2 million to help them with the expansion of the clinic using CARES funding. But that did not happen as the legislation was amended to include it, but then as we moved along, it was amended again, and it took that 3.2 million out of the expenditure plan. So, but all in all, the community decided they were going to move forward with their expansion project because time is of the essence, especially when they have contractors that are waiting and cannot wait for any type of delays. So in the middle of the pandemic, the construction started, and therefore, as they moved along, they started doing the building, and it started coming together. So with this, as they moved along and their expansion of patient health services started to expand because many of the Navajo citizens that live in Albuquerque found out about Tohojile Canoncito Health Center and therefore started using those services instead of Albuquerque. And so with that, though, it became apparent that, just like I said earlier, there is that need. So, but as they moved along on the construction, going back to the construction, I'm sorry, everything was going smoothly until the contractors were subjected to a fire suppression test. And what happened is that during the testing, it was determined that there was not enough water pressure to sustain the fire suppression system. And there needed to be an upgrade in the current water system in order to meet the code standards for a fire suppression system, meaning the water sprinkler, they have to meet so much foot-pounds of pressure in order to pass that critical part of the testing as the construction moves along. So now the clinic and the health board are left in a situation where they have committed all of their money, what they have so far, to the construction, and now they are reaching out to the Navajo Nation to say at least help us with $2 million so we could upgrade the current water system to meet this fire suppression test. And with that upgrade, what they need is that they need to build some holding tanks that will be fed into the expanded part of the clinic and also the current clinic. And therefore, it would be adequate enough to have a good fire suppression system in case there's a fire. And so this $2 million, that's how this legislation came about. And so now the idea is to look into the CSN funding. And this could also probably, in my opinion, qualify for ARPA reimbursements. So there might be an amendment that needs to be made for reimbursement from ARPA funding if we move forward with this request, a funding request. And I also have agents from the Canoncito Health Center. I don't know if they are able to call in, if they've called in. Canoncito Health Center representatives, are you on the line?
Yes. Good afternoon. This is Cindy Browning, the CEO for CBN Health Center. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Cindy Browning is our CEO for the Canoncito Health Center. Ms. Browning, if you would, I believe we do have like a little over 10 minutes maybe. If you would if I missed anything on the introduction, if you would cover those spots, or you have the floor, Ms. Browning.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I apologize. I had just gotten a text to call in, so I didn't hear all of your explanation except for the end about if this was for our fire suppression system. The health center has been experiencing a lot of challenges with our water, as has the community of Tohojile. We are at the end of the line. It goes from the well through the residential area and then into the community, then into our industrial park where the clinic resides. We have requirements that we are required to pass with water pressure testing, and we fail those tests at quite large numbers because there's just not adequate water nor water pressure in the community. So as it pertains to our clinic expansion is going to take our clinic from about 10,000 square foot. We're adding on another close to 10,000, doubling our size. We are at capacity for being able to provide healthcare services to the community, and that was the primary need for this expansion. We only have 5 examination rooms. We started as a 638 clinic in 2016 with about just under 8,000 patient visits, and in 2019 we were up to 22,400 patient visits for the year. In COVID we dipped down a little bit to 20,000, but we anticipate we'll continue to keep growing. We are seeing a lot of, in addition to our To'Hajiilee community members, also a lot of urban natives from the Albuquerque surrounding areas, Laguna, Acoma, as well as some of them coming in from when we did vaccinations and COVID testing from as far as Utah and other places. So we are a little but mighty clinic, and this water concern is very complex and it's very challenging. What we're experiencing is we have no other option at this point. We are looking at, can there be a well or anything else drilled, but the problem is if we halt our construction where we are at almost 63% completion. We have walls, we have paint, we have, a lot of stuff already up and available, but we had to put some of this on hold because in order for them to close up the walls and in order for them to close up the ceilings, we had to have this fire suppression system not only installed, but it had to be designed first. And the design couldn't be completed until they had a water pressure that was going to be consistent, that would allow us to operate the system when we have emergency needs. I also want to add that behind us in this flow of water is our EMS building. The EMS is under Navajo Nation, but we do work together, during the pandemic and stuff, and I'm assuming that ultimately, I don't know where they're at with their testing, but I believe that this could be impacting their operation as well, should this continue to fail. So we have had to design what they call a pump, well house, and a tank system. And the tank is basically, for lack of better terms, literally a storage tank, like a silo structure that holds the water. It allows for that water to be readily available in an emergency situation. So if there's any fire or need to put out any type of burning structure in that area, we would be able to have enough pressure to activate sprinkler systems and activate and put out our water, not only for us, but also some of the other facilities that will have future development in our economic development park. So we anticipated we would just need some minor changes. We have worked with the chapter and the community. They have, and the engineers, there was an engineering firm that has always worked with the To'Hajiilee community and worked on the water lines, the valves associated with it. We've been working on this since February. We have paid to have many water lines exposed, valves exposed. They've turned things on, turned things off, and we have still not been able to resolve the water pressure issue. So we've worked with the engineers, we've worked with everybody from a professional level that can give us proper guidance, proper recommendation, and this is the point that we're at. We have no other alternatives at this point. So now we have had to push this structural design, the system design out to the civil engineers to make sure our clinic and its future expansion is in compliance with safety regulations that we are governed by to operate. And based on those recommendations and requirements is how they came up with the design, the quantity of gallons needed for the system, and the operational needs for the system. So this is where we're at. It added on almost, we're looking right now at possible projections of $1.2 million. It's quite extensive what they have to do, and that doesn't include the coverages, and we've already incurred almost $42,000 out of our budget just to expose lines and valves and try to rectify the situation at this point. So we have exhausted a lot of our third-party revenue. Our clinic expansion has not only our funding, we also had received a $1.8 million grant from IHS for our $4 million project. And that, like I said, is about a $10,000 expansion. We've been very fortunate to hit the green light on this expansion before all the construction costs skyrocketed. And so we're trying our hardest to continue our schedule so we don't get impacted by contingency fees and additional labor and material costs. So that is our need for the request for funding, and we have always had the support of the chapter as well as trying to work with Navajo Nation for requesting of funding. But at this point, we thought we could make this on our own, and at this point, we know that we can't. So we are a 638 operation. I do weekly reports and update the Navajo Nation community on a weekly basis. Work a lot with Dr. Jill Jim and the whole Department of Health and the EPI team. So I think they're very familiar with our process over here at CBN Health Center. We've received a lot of great compliments and successful operations, and so we just hope to continue that, and we really would appreciate your support on this funding so we can continue to expand our services to the Navajo people and the surrounding Native Americans throughout the service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Browning, for that explanation, and that does help. With that, Samantha, Vice Chair Smith, the Budget and Finance Committee, that is the extent of our presentation to the committee.
We have presenters, and we have our sponsor of this legislation, the co-sponsor. Committee members, we have a motion and a second. Leave it up to the committee members. Any questions?
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty.
Honorable Crotty, I'll go ahead and recognize you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I would like to ask Legislative Council, in hearing the presentation and the sponsor, Chair Henia, recognized that this legislation does not have language that would request ARPA reimbursement. Can you give me guidance in terms of what type of language is ready, or at this point at the committee, or if we could have that language ready for the next committee? Thank you, Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, this is Lurleen from OLC.
Yes, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the legislation as drafted, if you take a look at page, let's see here, page 5 of 5, the very first line, paragraph E, it states the CSN fund shall be reimbursed in the amount of the expenditure authorized in this legislation from prospective funds available to the Navajo Nation from any and all appropriate state and federal sources, including congressional appropriations under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 or other COVID-19 related relief. So I believe the delegate's concern is addressed already in this provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislative Council. Back to the committee members. Any other questions for this legislation 0091-21?
This is Delegate Elmer Pibigay.
Committee members, any other questions regarding to this legislation 0091-21?
Elmer Pibigay, can you hear me?
Vice Chair,
I'm sorry,
Elmer Gay is trying to speak, ask a question.
Agushi, Shada, Honorable Elmer Begay, you have the floor. I recognize you.
*6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we hear you.
Okay, because my question, I don't know, Chair Henio, about your agents in Lenida. I was wondering, public health service, PHS, the Ninigido, under that, there is a federal agency. I don't know with the Indian Health Service, so it's a federal agency. I call they the uncle a by we always mention that the also son of the back in the signing of the treaty. I never how it's in this. The with your health care and health facilities, your well-being, your health. You get to I call the Navajo Nation based on maintenance of the because understanding that all these public law 86121 system it's a public law to provide water for sanitation projects for human consumption that Haida. What you seen the what happened to all those grants? And what happened to all those engineers that were there? They're supposed to be providing all that planning and designing. If they know that the increase of population services, then I'm not sure who that water line belongs to. I don't think it's the Navajo Nation or NTA that's responsible for the O&M cost. Is there any help from there? Or with all these federal agencies, are they doing their job? There, they were just sleeping. They went to sleep. I just keep on it. My question.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Committee members, any other questions before I turn the floor back over to the sponsor of this legislation? That's indeed. Chair Henio, you have the floor.
Vice Chair Smith. Delegate Elmer P. Begay for that question regarding the federal government. And for Cindy's sake, Cindy, if you could elaborate on the question, is that since the Treaty of 1860 had been signed, agreed upon, there was a promise made by the federal government to provide needed services to the Navajo Nation in the form of healthcare, education, and so forth. So with this Senate expansion, my question would be, what has the government contributed so far, the federal government, meaning IHS, or Public Health Service, BIA, what have they contributed, and at the same time, I believe that you have gone up and asked for assistance, and if you have, what was their response? If you would elaborate on that, Ms. Browning.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I will try to answer to the best of my ability here. On this project, we started this project, I think it was 2018, final submittal for funding and documentation, and our project was just below $4 million. Of that, $1.8 million is coming from IHS in the form of a small ambulatory grant, which helps us with the construction of the project. The remaining funds are coming out of the CBN Health Center's third-party revenue that we've generated over the last 4.5 years. As far as asking for any additional funding, when the funding opportunity came open this past year, we were informed that we couldn't apply for additional funding from IHS in that same funding source because this project already had received that funding. I have not asked for any funding from BIA or anybody else at this point. We were hoping in a kind of a joint shared opportunity here, since now our expenditures are pushing at $6 million. It almost evens it if we can do two and two, but that's kind of where we're at. I'm open if there's additional suggestions of where to seek funding and support for this project. I'm gladly taking notes, but that's all we have requested at this point in time. We did have a request previously during the COVID funding time. Our Honorable Councilman Henio had proposed some funding support requests through Navajo Nation from different funding opportunities, and it was denied at the time. And now we have really scaled back to this $2 million request in this emergency situation.
Thank you, Ms. Browning, for that explanation. Ashland, Budget Finance Committee. Again, this is almost like an emergency need for funding to upgrade the water system for the health center, which again earlier, as we said, the construction of a holding tank that would allow the pressure to be consistent with the testing standards for the fire extinguisher system. Hopefully we answered your question. Vice Chair.
I appreciate that, Chair Henio.
I have a follow-up question.
I'll recognize you, Honorable Begay. You have the floor for your follow-up question.
Okay, Nana. Around the Chair Henio, members of the BNF committee, and then your presenters too. It seems like right now I'm working with my community, working on a lot of projects. We say that we're construction ready, shovel ready, and seems like working with the Navajo Nation Council and then the programs. We're trying to get the Downtown Justice Center to be a construction project ready. We have a construction document which is reviewed by the BIA, and that all the specifications were met, and they gave us a letter on it. And then the ETA gave us the right of way to the right of way, the utility corridors for all four infrastructures. And then there's inside that Justice Center, there's already a water storage tank for sprinkler system, though any that will be a water supply, particularly for this project. It's already in place at the beginning. This is what we call is construction document. So everything's in place. This is how everything is planning it's already included in everything. The future growth, if something happens or how it's going to be, and it's already included into these projects that the drawing and then the construction documents. It's already included there. So right now, thinking about this project is that the sprinkler system and then any water supply for this healthcare wasn't included at the beginning in the planning. So because even the water supply, it seems that the way I'm looking at, the way I'm hearing it is that the water supply that's there right now, it doesn't meet any additional water for any proposed facility. So the water that is there, all the water that are engineered there is only for that community, the way it is right now. Although it's reserved for that. So any additional for that, the water supply doesn't going to carry that. So that's the reason why you're trying to improve the water system, where upgrading with a storage tank for when something happens, to make sure that they will have a water supply for that. So then so there was a lack of a planning at the beginning. So I would say that it wasn't very construction ready, because we're still adding something that's needed as emergency until I don't know why I present this kind of a document to the nation, but we're not considered to be a construction ready, shovel ready. So I would feel that this is not a construction ready at the beginning. So that's the reason why I get confused on that. Why that my documents are all construction ready, everything's included, even for the future. But I don't know why. Who at the level of a public safety, they're not considering me as a construction ready project for me. They all trying to think about it. So I want BNF members to think about it. I respect you. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. That what do we really mean as a delegate? That what do we mean when we look at a construction ready and shovel ready projects? So what a project service or operation is going, but there's still something that's lacking, especially with water. That's what we consider as emergency to add on to this. So I understand that the growth later on, later on, the people started beginning to use this out of the population to help the services got increased it. So, but each facility, it should be, if it's going to be operated 24/7, should already have something storage, even the power. I'm trying to look at the construction document that they had, the planning part of it when they were constructing this facility. So out on the water, so but for your community and then the area, and then I know the health care is really needed, especially with water. The Budget and Finance Committee, I heard by Dai said a prayer, and thankful that including DACOM. Today in Tijuana, and there's two offices are not going because there's no water. Out of all those water supplies or watering points or shut down by NTA. Although even if you go to Loop, they say that only Loop resident a water, the water points I know. Out on the bird springs, over there they fence around it. But they're checking where, if you're from Telecommun, they don't accept you. So all my communities are going down to Winslow, a water, they cut the water. Now, hope today, that's where people are getting water today. So, but nobody's NTA. I called them, can you do impressively saying that there's emergency crisis because there's no lack of water or water shortage? No. They say that we cannot do because we only do press release only on a scheduled outage until we look at the no. So this is the nape call you the for livestock. We don't need to call. So I guess but so I support you. Members of the PNF committee that water is very, very scarce. To use it for your people. In cases also about this thing. And that's this legislation. Thank you for presenting this legislation to let go. So any other Chair, Vice Chair, thank you.
Thank you for those encouraging words and realizing that we need water. So out of behind seat. Committee members of Budget and Finance, any other questions, concerns regarding this legislation before I turn it back over to the sponsor of this legislation, Chair Henio? Chair Henio, you have the floor.
Vice Chair Smith, Budget and Finance Committee members, Delegate Elmer P. Begay. I can't allow for your concerns, listening. Well, they're well noted from me, Kodo. We could explain as far as what you're bringing forth. And we do appreciate your support, Shananta, on this legislation and moving it to navigate the other nomination council. So a lot of the construction ready we do have a lot of shovel ready projects I know, but this one this project was on the health board's own initiative. They have the construction started right in the middle of the construction during the testing of different components before they go to the next phase. Even I could have been so okay, they don't even actually. I don't know so it's $100. So, Vice Chair Smith and Budget and Finance Committee, once the health center is complete, let's take a visit to the community, have a meeting there at the in the community of Tojile, and see for ourselves firsthand how we helped the community of Tojile and the Kinesita Health Center. Also, Shananta, Vice Chair Smith, back to you.
Chair Henio, thank you for your invitation on behalf of this project dated Kinesita to Hajile de Kinikat. Committee members of the Navajo Nation Budget and Finance Committee members, any other questions on behalf of this? Shanetta, Ramona, round the horn on the voting.
Okay, Shanella. Vote for legislation number 0091-21. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable
I vote green. I vote green. This is Delegate Yellowhair.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Jamie Henio, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Jamie Henya votes green. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Elmer P. Begay votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth Bott-Crotty, how do you vote?
Delegate Amber Kenneth Bott-Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Amber Kenneth Bott-Crotty votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Vice Chairman, we have 5 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposed. Vice Chair not voting. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Nella, for the roll call vote on behalf of legislation 0091-21. This moves on to the next level, Nabikia Committee, which will probably be entertained here Thursday, as we know that we have Nabikia Committee and Navajo Nation Council coming up, either to be heard the special session or we'll wait till the summer session, depending on the Navajo Nation Council's prerogative on this. So with that, Chair Henio, we'll turn the floor back over to you for the remainder of this budget meeting that we have on the special meeting. You have the floor. You have the gavel.
Kaya lang Sunanta, Vice Chair Smith, for facilitating the this legislation. Other Sunanta Budget and Finance Committee. Thank you for your vote on behalf of the Torch Lake community. This is moving forward on the agenda. 0092-21. Do we have Speaker Seth Damon on the call? Speaker Seth Damon?
Shania, Chair Henio. Delegate Stewart's online.
Oh, good. I was just getting ready to call you as the alternate bull rider. The main sponsor is not here. So, Shananta, thank you for calling in. And with this, Peggy, if you would read this legislation into the record, 0092-21.
Thank you, Chair Camillo, and members of the Budget and Finance Committee. This is a proposed Navajo Nation Council resolution assigned to Resources and Development Committee, Finance, Budget and Finance Committee. Budget and Finance Committee has final authority. 24th Navajo Nation Council, 3rd year 2021, introduced by Seth Damon and Wilson Stewart Jr. Council delegates. Prime sponsor. Tracking number 0092-21, an action relating to Resources and Development and Budget and Finance Committees approving a change in resolution number CAP 3518 for Seattle chapter by deleting the Seattle chapter renovation project and adding the chapter house demolition project. And so this has been electronically read into the record. The legislation has signed amendment certification forms from the CPMD office, as well as Seattle chapter project description and their resolution, the Legislative Council's memos, the Internet Public Review first report has no comments on it. And then the Resources and Development Committee has a due pass with no amendments. Also, they also have a vote tally sheet, and they are all signed and everything's in order. Mr. Chair.
Peggy for that reading and explanation of the legislation from the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there a motion to accept resolution 0092-21?
This is Delegate Brown.
Delegate Brown.
Second.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown, motion to accept the resolution, second by Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair. With this, do we have a motion and a second? And Budget and Finance Committee
The necessary documentation is all included. CAP 35-18. Are there any questions? If there are no questions at this time, I'll request for a roll call vote. If there are questions, then I'll defer to the sponsor for explanation. Denoya, Ramona, if you would lead us in a roll call vote.
Sure, Chairman. Roll call vote for legislation number 0092-21. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote? Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
I vote green. I vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Elmer P. Begay votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty, how do you vote?
Delegate Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green. Yeah.
Thank you. Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Chairman, we have 5 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing. Chairman not voting. Chairman?
Yeah, thank you, Ramona, for that. Roll call vote, 50092-21 receives a due pass in the Budget and Finance with a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, Chair not voting. And also to Delegate Wilson Stewart Jr. for representing the chapter on this legislation.
Shania.
Oh.
Thank you. Yat Shania to Budget and Finance Committee members and Osenigi. Not only us as sponsors, but also the chapter chapter to move forward in their plans under this cap 38. I thank you. 3518 again. So I thank you for your votes in favor of it.
And also send a message to President David Lee. Let's move forward. Legislation 0094-21. We do have our sponsor, Shananta, Delegate Eugene So, who is present, and then also co-sponsors came there. So with this, Peggy, if you would read the legislation into the record for us.
Okay, thank you, Chair Henio and members of the Budget and Finance Committee. This is a proposed Navajo Nation Council resolution. Health Education and Human Services Committee was assigned, and then the Budget and Finance Committee, then Nabikia Committee, then Navajo Nation Council. 24th Navajo Nation Council, 3rd year 2021, introduced by Eugene So and Carl Slater, Kealan Begay, Pernell Halona, Eugenia Charles Newton, and I'm not sure whose name that is, but an additional delegate. We're all sponsors of this legislation, tracking number 0094-21, an action relating to health, education, and human services, budget and finance, and Nabikia committees, and the Navajo Nation Council. Enacting the Navajo Nation CARES Fund Phase 2 Hardship Assistance Expenditure Plan, allocating Navajo Nation CARES Fund investment earnings thereto. So this legislation has been read into the record. And then the exhibits that are in the legislation that are referenced are also there, including the council resolutions and such. The Internet Public Review document is there. The first one has 3 comments in favor of the legislation, and they are attached. And then the second report includes 14 comments supporting the legislation, as well as 2 that had recommendations. Then the third report has 1 comment supporting the legislation. The Health, Education, and Human Services Committee has do pass with no amendments. And then the vote tally sheet is also attached. And they are all signed and everything's in order for this legislation.
Thank you for that reading. With this, Budget and Finance Committee members, is there a motion for legislation 0094-21?
My motion, Delegate Brown.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown motion. There's a second.
Delegate Yellowhair, well, second.
Delegate Jimmy Yellowhair, second. We do have a motion and a second established. Then with that, we do have our sponsor, Delegate Eugene So is present with us right now. So what we'll do is we'll have Shinanda to introduce the legislation to the committee here. But with a little side note here, Vice Chair Smith, if Delegate Eugene So is done and I'm not answering, I've kind of lost signal for a little bit. I'm driving between Gatahe and Window Rock, so you would just kind of take over real quickly now, so I'll get back on. Shinanda, Delegate Eugene So, Kade Kadini Shona Shona Tina Nani Niche Kozige. Delegate Eugene So, Shinanda.
Acha, what is that?
Oh, what is that?
Hakkasina. Og kan have det det der så bare hvis ni tager det til det kunne se jeg ked. Så jeg sagde med jeg ked så sagde der. Kan ana lo jeg havde det jeg havde en lidt arbejde. Og even maar go jeg så bare that the nidi concom this in the other health education do technique or question co-sponsor technique other machine to ask you got not the resources so about has in the so see job not the shit but I go a check as it is on hinge scale so that you go share the edge the need on the fish and then read aber auch da haben wir es nicht so der Application da mit IO in die Athena mit der Rage eine sabach da hat all dans mit oder da nicht die haben nicht die okay aber Aaron Rick da nicht der geht doch da 1 billion die Kojigi ja so für eine Rede nicht aber aber auch die andere Idee ja, dan is het zo. Ik ben niet ban had only kon ik dat zo. Ik had de show. Ons aan het finance committee. Als ze nou zien gaat het zien gaat het zo in gaat is doen dan dit nil. Is just ik op auto dus ik ben ja die conversation gedaan toch zo naast wat is niet. Is niet ben ga is even nice ja en dingen thank you.
Vice Chair Smith, I think you're in charge, unless Chair Hinio's still there. Chair Hinio, are you still there? So Vice Chair, I guess you're in charge.
Committee members of the Budget Finance Committee, legislation 0094-21. We had our Honorable Eugene So sponsor this and several co-sponsors. We have a motion and a second.
opening it up for questions to the Budget and Finance Committee members.
Vice Chair, this is Delegate Cardi with a question.
I'll go ahead and recognize you, Shemayaja. Honorable Crotty, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Delegate So, for the legislation. My understanding is that there is a lot of support for this legislation today. Thank you for taking the time to develop. My question is, Budget and Finance, we received a report from Acting Controller Begay, I believe last week, regarding some of the challenges with the portal, outstanding expenditures to Baker Tilly. And so as of last week, the Navajo Nation was not did not have access to the information. So I guess my question is more either to the sponsor or if Acting Controller is on the line, if I could get a status of the hardship portal in moving forward with supporting the funding for the remaining applicants. Do we have that information? How are we going to move forward? And in their estimation, what is going to be the cost for those applicants who are still waiting for their hardship relief checks? Vice Chair Smith, committee members, that's my question at this point. I'm not sure how that's going to be addressed in this legislation. Thank you.
Question, Shemayaja. Thank you for that question. On behalf of that, committee members of the Budget Finance, any other questions before I turn the floor back over to our sponsor, Honorable Eugene So? Committee members. Okay, Honorable Eugene So Shania, you have the floor regarding the question that was.
Vice Chair, this is Delegate Brown. Oh, I had a question. I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
Shania, you have the floor. Eugene So.
Vice Chair, can you hear me? This is Delegate Brown. I have a question.
Yes, I hear you, Honorable Brown. We'll come back to you after Honorable So answers this question. We'll come back to you. You'll be next. Eugene So, Honorable Eugene.
No question.
You have the floor.
Question is controlling the report you lada please condition yang jo ho ni he ho na OA crab na the kidi I see picture ho straight out I see your nagi sa Miss Begay from the controller. I can see she can answer my question. I mean answer the question that was asked. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello, good afternoon. This is Elizabeth Begay, Mr. Vice Chair, Delegate So, and Delegate Crotty for the question. Yes, I reported the challenges on the portal last week, and I got an email from Baker Tilly this morning that they will be available for a telephone conference call tomorrow, and I'm still trying to get hold of our FMIS consultants. We want them to get involved because if we bring the portal here with the OOC, then we have to connect it to the FMIS. So that will be the discussion tomorrow. But we really need the portal so that we will know who are the 1,000 applicants that met the deadline but have problems with their CIB, and also the approximately 9,000 wait lists. So having said that, the legislation has a provision under Section 4E, basically stating that the OOC shall prorate the distribution of the hardship assistance, meaning after we calculate all the applicants, then we divide whatever the money is available. So that raised the question whether we will give priority to the 1,000 applicants that met the deadline but have problems with their CIB, and the 9,000 wait list, because we're calculating that the 42 million available, if we prorate it to the approximately 90,000 enrolled Navajos that have not been assisted, that includes the 1,000 and the 9,000 wait list, that will only equal to $466 per applicant. But if we have the other option of giving priority to the 1,000 applicants and the 9,000 wait list, the same amount of assistance, adults at 1,350, the minor for 450, that will take approximately 10 million out of the 42 million available. So that leaves us with the 32 million. And if we prorate that to approximately 80,000 minus the 10,000, which is the 1,000 applicants plus the 9,000 waitlist, then each new applicants will receive approximately $400. So that's guidance from this legislation if we want to give priority to those that who already applied, or will just treat everybody fairly equal. And as far as OOC taking over the distribution of the 42 million assistance, I talked to my staff and they are willing to take the challenge. I was informed. So we will be ready to take on the project. We just need basically additional resources like additional employees, temporary employees. We need additional supplies. We need to reorder new checks. And the call center is already up and running. We also need basically additional building, office to do this. So that's the areas that we are working. Mr. Vice Chair.
Well, thank you, Acting Controller Ms. Begay, for that answer. Do we have Chair Henio back on board?
I don't think so, Vice Chair.
Checking, making sure that I'm not running over time on him. Gushin, I'll turn the floor back to our committee members. Honorable Brown, you have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Can you guys hear me now?
Loud and clear. You have the floor.
All right, thank you. Excuse me, I'm in a chapter meeting as well. We are constantly being pulled in multiple directions as leadership, but a lot of good work going on. With this CARES Act, the hardship phase 2, I know that in my chapters of Chochimbito, Danahoto, and Kayenta, specifically Kayenta, the veterans, there was a group of applications that were never received. It was given to one of the veterans commander, and there was no documentation of where it was recorded. I did report to this committee as well as the former controller, Ms. Shanella, Ms. Kirk. So they're aware. I did send an email also. So there was a number of veterans that submitted their applications, and the controller's office never received the application. So in that case, what can we do? I know that there is an extensive email that was sent to the controller's office. So they were never, and there was no trail of paperwork. So we do not know where their application went. I know that the veterans They express their concern with a lot of their private confidential information, so security number, address, telephone numbers, CIB numbers, etc. were all on there, and they cannot be located. So in this case, what are some of the recommendations, and would the amount be the same? The second part to this question would be, is this CARES hardship 2, is it open to all our Navajo residents again? If it is, if we have close to 400,000 registered Navajo individuals, would they be, what would the amount be? And then my third question would be, this morning, I believe that LOC, they're still meeting, but when I spoke there, they were addressing bootlegging and drug problems throughout Navajo in our communities in the 110 chapters. And some of the ideas was that, I'm not sure what this would look like, but some of our individuals who applied and received hardship assistance, a lot of the bootleggers, they did get paid, and they continue to perpetuate this crime, and that also perpetuated a lot of our people consuming. So that's a big discussion that's going on with Law and Order Committee, and how do we address our public safety initiative. So that's a question to the attorney. Is there any way to add this into this legislation, to get a report from Navajo Nation Public Safety on some of the registered bootleggers and drug dealers throughout the Navajo Nation, and to not give them any type of hardship assistance? Again, they're creating more hardship. People are losing their lives because of alcohol abuse, junk drivers that are out there, and we can go on the list, the issues and the problems that they perpetuate on the Navajo Nation. So that was a big discussion that's going on with Law and Order Committee. So if I can get a response from our attorney, from our legal counsel or DOJ, and is that possible? If it is, if I can also have the attorneys work on an amendment on that, since our people are asking for remedies on how to combat some of these social ills, and everything about over 90% from the Navajo Nation Police that reported to us, to leadership in this public forum, they stated that over 90% of the problems are all due to alcohol and drugs. So I think that we as leadership need to be cognizant about how we spend these hardship dollars, that they're just creating more hardship, and give it to the individual. Maybe we need to give it to the youth. Do we just give it to our youth who are in college, pay off their loans, pay off the nurses, the EMTs? I know that they're still struggling with a lot of people that are impacted also. I know that that was not enough as well. And I'm looking at the Navajo Nation businesses as well. A lot of our Navajo-owned companies, businesses, specifically tourism, and my area, who are tour operators, had to sell most and all their vehicles. So is there a way that we can entertain to bring them more financial assistance, since they are the ones also of the revenue generating companies here on the Navajo Nation? There's other questions that I have, but if you can respond back to my questions, I would appreciate it, and then we can start working on an amendment and move forward with that. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Honorable Brown. Committee members, any other questions before I turn the floor back over to our sponsor? Shunai, Honorable Eugene So, you have the floor. And then we'll turn the floor over to Legislative Council on request from Honorable Brown after I turn the floor to Honorable Eugene So. Eugene So, you have the floor.
*6 to unmute yourself, Mr. So.
General has really got that.
Oh, Lisa, go ahead, Shinai, Honorable.
Oh, sure. So, because it's so good, aber hasn't got yeah, it's so good. So, I didn't not so, I didn't took a lot of time. So, currently, Donnie so it even now, the that other be oh, I was at the donation is action is many to egg keeping any so. I look forward to one into those so Yanani grass or it all on this to a asati. We saw the things that it on there, but right now we got this legislation and it doesn't really go for school, etc. I did to check the bus and the next year anything that actually does. The shadow never cut it. That's what we're doing. There's a lot of money that was used wisely, and also it was used here on the within the stores within the Navajo Nation. So that I started create even now I even a big base of so WD in the such your does is a base of so WD need anan or Mr. Brown just read that there's a lot of population that was lost by the veterans. I'm pretty sure other chapters people were saying the chapters those are some of the people that we missed. There were the missed ones that we were trying to give some hardship cash. Again, I need to read all of that is the ancient art and not this. If we open it up to too much, that's not because they so got 8 of this. So about go 8. So what we're discussing is a hardship funds phase 2 as the same token as the last one, but this things change here and there. Although she had, I believe I'll give the floor back to Ms. Gay, see what she has on her side. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. So, Mr. Vice Chair, Budget and Finance Committee, based on what we have here, vital records identified 399,494 enrolled Navajos. In the hardship assistance 1, the first assistance, we assisted approximately 308,000 enrolled Navajos. So that leaves around 91,494 that were not assisted. So these 42 million will be able to assist the needy Navajos that were not assisted from the hardship 1. And we don't require basically no information about if they have a criminal record or something. What we request is just the CIB, and that will qualify them to receive assistance. As far as the small business, I provided a spreadsheet of those projects that were not expended and went back to the hardship assistance budget. And one of them is the small business budget. There's a total of 31 million that reverted to hardship assistance budget because they did not expend their fund. Basically, there was a deadline of November that they did not expend their funds. So according to the NABI resolution, their budget reverted to hardship assistance budget. And as far as the expenditure portion, the small business expended 28.5 million. And the other question about basically our calculated assistance amount. So again, if we don't prioritize the 1,000 applicants that already submitted their application and the 9,000 that's on the wait list, then we have to prorate the available 42 million based on the number of applications that we receive. And for those that claim that they applied but we don't have a record, then they are required to reapply again so that they can be put on the list of new applicants. Mr. Vice Chair.
Now, thank you, Office Controllers. There was a question posed to the Legislative Council. Legislative Council, are you there?
Good afternoon, Budget and Finance Committee. This is Dana Bobrock, Chief Legislative Counsel. So if I understood Delegate Brown correctly, well, let me back up a little bit. So as Ms. Begay just stated, the only eligibility difference between the first plan and this phase 2 plan, the only difference is if you received money under phase 1, you cannot receive money under phase 2. That is just the one exception. And also, as Ms. Begay was speaking, she was talking about the documents that are required when you submit for an application, and those are pretty simple documents. You need to fill out the application. You need a copy of your CIB. What Delegate Brown, his request, is there any way to exclude bootleggers from getting assistance? Technically, of course there is. We'll draft it in the legislation and state that if you have been convicted, we can only do convictions, we can't do charges. If you have been convicted of bootlegging or any other crimes you want to throw in, such as domestic violence or such, you would not be eligible for hardship. I said that's technically possible. From a practical standpoint, it will severely delay the distribution of these funds. I don't know how many of you who have experienced this, but basically getting a copy of your police records, your police history, your criminal history, your background, it's not necessarily a quick process. So if you are going to exclude people who've been convicted of a crime, the only way to do that is require everybody who applies to provide some form of background check so that it can be determined that everybody is without such conviction. So it can be done, but it could be a practical, a really big delay. And keep in mind, while CARES was extended, the CARES deadline was extended. It wasn't extended indefinitely. It's extended till December 31st of this year. So you got about 6 months left. As far as prioritizing students or just giving the dollar to students, yes, the same thing could be done, and we would do amendments. Would need criteria, meaning do students have to show current enrollment, a letter from their universities, trade schools, etc. So that would probably include the application burden, and enhance it, make it more documents have to be included. In the hardship assistance plan as written, when you receive the money, you can expend it on most anything, and certainly student financial needs are included. As far as doing the assistance to small businesses, I have to suggest that potentially would be inconsistent with the original purpose of this legislation. This legislation was to fund individuals. There were business hardship plans, but if you want to switch this one from individual to businesses, that really does change the purpose. And so I would recommend this legislation being withdrawn, tabled, not passed, and a separate business hardship phase 2 be enacted. That will require an amendment to a number of council legislations also. If I misunderstood Delegate Brown, and he doesn't want to make it a business hardship expenditure plan, but instead he wants to prioritize small business owners, then we can probably redraft to do that. We'll have to look at how we verify and establish that they are indeed small business owners. The last thing that I'm going to throw in is that if you will look at page 5, we're looking at paragraph in, specifically on line 15. Now, all of the numbers that Office of Legislative Counsel, all of the numbers, the dollar amounts that are included in this legislation, they came from the Office of the Controller. Both the Office of the Controller, OMB, and the Department of Justice had the opportunity to comment, and those comments are, to the degree possible, included in here. I don't believe we ever received any comments from OMB, but they were provided the opportunity. But why I was referencing page 5, line 15, is because the way that is included is that those applications where they're working on exceptions, those, I think Elizabeth said that there are about 1,000 of them. Those would still be funded at the full amount through the original hardship assistance plan. And it was my understanding by that the numbers provided included those exception amounts. If not, we do need to make an adjustment on those dollar amounts. As far as those 9,000 or so applications which got lost or such, those would be funded under hardship 2. Either it would kind of be up to the controller, I guess, for a determination as to whether they needed to reapply or do new applications, or whether they could rely on their current applications, but they would be funded out of hardship 2. And the other thing that I want to clarify to people is that it keeps being said that the cap is $13.50 for adults and $4.50 for children. That is something that the controller implemented. The actual legislations are higher than that and actually state that the amount shall not exceed $1,500 per person over the age of 18 and shall not exceed $500 for persons under the age of 18. So thank you, Chair and Vice Chair and Delegate Brown. I hope I got all your questions. If not, I'm on standby. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislative Council. The response to Honorable Brown's question, and also OOC and also Shania for sponsoring this legislation. Committee members, is our chair back with us? I'm just checking to see if our chair is back. Okay, committee members, back to the committee members of Budget and Finance on this legislation. Any other questions?
This is Delegate Yellowhair.
Jimmy Yellowhair, Honorable, I will recognize you. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Pro Temp Chair, Honorable Smith. Thank you very much for taking over as for Mr. Honorable Henio, and also my colleagues, the 24 councilmen, being the committee members. Shiban just case at you. But I thought he called 1,008 out of I guess their document was ready to be paid, but they missed the deadline. 9,000 a waiting list. They $42 million. The net all you issued up basically out of turning the live paperwork. So I think to me is we should live as is. Otherwise, we might not even meet the deadline. December 31st is just right here on the corner. Live as is. I'd like to see this hardship money be cleaned out and live as is relate to it. Pay off. Maybe some money left. Maybe we could do something like that. Bikero. So as a co-sponsor, as me, Jimmy L here, live as is. We don't want to do it complicated for our people. We need to be paid. Let's clear out this book and put a zero balance. A crib between that your little that nil handy between that your gisa out of Chenda is Yanni. Should I be so this is not army. Thank you for the floor, yes, and Ani to protect honorable. Thank you. Let's support it as is. Thank you.
Thank you for the support on this legislation. Committee members,
Vice Chair, this is Delegate McKay.
I'll recognize
Vice Chair Smith is Chair Henio. I'm back if you want to ask a question.
Okay, so I hear Elmer Begay, and I hear Chair Henio. Did Chair Henio say he has a question too? Is that what you said, Chair Henio?
Oh no, I'm back. Just in case you want to ask a question, I'm back online.
Okay, let me give you the gavel. We had just Honorable Jimmy Ellen here asked a question. Now I'm giving the floor over to Shada Elmer Begay, Honorable Elmer Begay, and I do have a question, Chair. So I'll turn the gavel over to you. Thank you.
Vice Chair Smith for taking over this. This for a short period of time for come back into signal here. Shinada, Budget and Finance Committee, we do have a question from the floor. Shinada, Delegate MOP Begay. You have the floor.
This is Chair Henio, Vice Chair Smith. My question, listening to the Controller Begay, She mentioned that and then the question that was raised by Shadejit Karate, Delegate Karate, called she's understanding that from Baker Tilly, so they haven't so as far as I know that there's an agreement made already with Baker Tilly saying that they're going to return that portal and to see how many are still in that they're on the list for waiting, and then also that were put on hold. They haven't really get together on it yet. So we know that there's a challenge. The amount, how many is going to be yet? It seems like we have to wait on it to get that accurate numbers. Once we get hold of Baker Tilly's portal, according to the accurate number of husbands on this. We're doing this. That we can put it on the legislation, the amount, the numbers, and then I'm not sure if I'm understanding right, but that's what I heard from Controller Brigade. That's what my thought is.
Kashina, Elmer PBG for your comments and question. Back to Shinanta, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Chair Henio and the Budget and Finance Committee members. This question goes directly to the Office of Controller. We sent information to Robert Willey, and we haven't heard anything back. And I keep getting calls from the constituents in my area. They were notified some time ago saying, yes, we found the documents, and yes, you will be afforded to the CARES money, not this one, but the first wave of the funding that was provided for the hardship. And we sent all that information in. They finally broke down and sent letters to me, and I gave it to the Chief of Staff through the legislative branch here, and Chief of Staff sent it to Robert Willey, and we haven't heard anything thus far. And the folks are wanting to know what's going on, and they realize that there's another wave coming in, but they're saying we were already told that by Baker and Tilly that we were going to be considered, and they're just patiently waiting for the outcome of this first initial CARES money. Office of Controller, Mrs. Begay. So I would like to have that information so that I could give that to the constituents that are calling and asking, and we've been waiting patiently, and there should be an answer provided on what is needed or what is going to be taking place on this. And I'm sure they don't want to be reapplying. I'm sure they don't want to be putting hopes up again that they may or may not be getting help, but this should be an answer right away, because all the paperwork was submitted to Baker and Tilly, and they were contacted by them and said that they would be considered for the hardship. Thank you, Chair Henio. That's my concern on that behalf. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the questions there. Back to the sponsor and the agent, Shinanta, Delegate Eugene So, and your agent, our controller, acting controller, Ms. Elizabeth Begay. So Shinanta, Delegate Eugene So, you have the floor for those comments and questions.
Question. then I think Kirijo, eat at a coin, Shigijo 8, I don't a Nishi Mechana card on the hike in the levels on the Kodoni down in so a call even Navajo, not art it no or can then ha it la it or dojo. You need Clara that in the Hanoy over and 50. So, if you begin to see the Indian Hanal, the stone icon, as thousand guitar, so, but has it all been the has eated about Hila or in a flow, not and surely which on not the street, Miss Begay. Can you put in some words? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Delegate. So, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, question by Delegate Begay about Baker Tilly. We are still working on getting that portal transferred to OOC. There's still, of course, the money that we owe Baker Tilly that we need to clear up, and they are willing to basically continue working with the second hardship if we clear up the outstanding debt, and of course additional money needed for them to take over the hardship second hardship assistance program. But with that problem, here at OOC, we're working on basically taking over the hardship too if we don't resolve the issue with Baker Tilly. So that's where it's at. And the question about Vice Chair information sent to Rob Willie about basically, I'm assuming CIB. So we do not have information on the status of the applications. It may be part of that 1,000 applicants that met the deadline, but initially have problems with their CIB, but since have been resolved. But that information, it's in that portal that we're working with Baker Tilly to basically transfer to OOC. And Baker Tilly emailed us that they will be available tomorrow for a telephone conference call. So that will be discussed tomorrow as soon as all the individuals that I would like to attend the call will be available. And so basically, I understand that they don't want to reapply if they already applied and they were already approved, but we can resolve those issues once we get hold of the portal. Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that response. So today, back to the Budget and Finance Committee. Are there any further questions?
Chair, yellow hair, Nestida, Delegate yellow hair.
Delegate yellow hair.
I'd like to make a comment. And we should not be waiting for Baker Tilly. They already done their job. They're gone. Holding on to the records of the Navajo Nation. That's probably belongs to the Navajo Nation. They should be returned immediately. We need to move on to have a smoother payoff what we need under hardship account. We don't want to get complicated, and we don't want to get hold on from the Baker Tilly. Acting controller should control right now at this time because she got a job now. So we don't want to pay another payment to Ms. Baker Tilly. They got enough pay already. And they got too much pay received from the Navajo Nation. That's my concern. We need to move on. We don't want no more interruptions now. Let a temporary controller needs to take care of business for the Navajo Nations about this. The IEC, in the house. No, the narrow you. Even in let's take care of it. Out of by any kind of. So you between the Yadai down person or person here. They also on Shika conducted another contract that we need to move on with it. The longer we wait, the longer we wait, it's going to cost us time. Because December 31st is just here. Not too far to get to December 31st. A quiet session on the quiet base by you. Once about I hope you do a good job. Acting controller, that's gay. Confidence in you. Thank you. Yeah, once about go back to you. To the
again.
Jimmy here for those comments. Do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I have a question again. Follow-up question. BNF members of Sanido, Shinado, so not so sneaky. So na kizgi da to ge o the naban sahakis but na ho lan gi shi to shi hajo do le gi shi ta jo ban sahakis ga so adin danil za adin sahakis gi tahil ji shi ko. So the reason why I'm saying this is based on Zinigi a portal with beat now but at it ended Nahalan. If you want to that young, that could be that stay there. So the Christian a 1,000 around the 9,000 they at on the article. Hajoba Hosuna Nahayat don't sound about this because I didn't the legislation to give a card or Nishiko. It I had on such cases. So the Budget and Finance Committee need and a base about Hian Wiki, that's Eko. So bad the husband over the portal are not to do around the equity. They're willing to work with us, Johan. Toshindo that I need a Johnny or when I done either beyond bigger. I when I be a don't need a bigger. So I thought today I thought that Johnny I thought a bad lady, no, could be what not. So if you're on Budget and Finance Committee, go has your base about how yard we could need to the if you don't need to drive in the job yet, but cut I need or is a neither. Although your balance and not just I think I thought Johnnet later John. So they open this case. Other sheet ahead or other and none is any one see case again. It's an hard is military as on his hand that is it's only that it old Eddie on need for idea all one such case budget finance clinic has all got other Nayal or the Abiga Jordan. Although I couldn't love you, I don't love that I hear that's all about card of the home. Open secret go, and he basically need either for that any external fund and internal funds and can coordinate. But I open this case, so my question goes to Controller Begay. So the way sounding like they're willing to Baker Tilly is willing to work with us. Work with you and your and OMB, but they haven't provided when the time is going to be, and then we don't know what actually the accurate number is going to be. So my question goes to you is that is it going to be better to pass this legislation as BNF committee, since we're overseeing with the financing and the financial part of it, to see if you maybe look into that and come up with the accurate accountability of Baker Tilly. Then we can pass the legislation that Delegate So is sponsoring. Can you elaborate more on it? And maybe I'm wrong. So can you explain that to me again or to us? Thank you. Henio, question.
For that question to our nomination controller, acting controller. So with this, back to Delegate Eugene So, to back to the agent, Ms. Elizabeth Begay. Mrs.
Begay, I believe you know a lot of Navajo by now. I'm just kidding. Answer that back. Thank you for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Delegate So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and BNF committee. I was informed that back when Baker Tilly fully expended their contracted amount back February 2021, they already requesting approximately 3.7 million to cover them with that hardship 2 that we're already anticipating, as well as to cover them to close out the CARES fund. There's a quarterly report that is due July 10th, as well as to close out the fund by September 30th. That's basically the plan, or if not all fully expended, by December 30th, 2021. So that's basically the request, an additional 3.7 million to clear up the amount that the OOC owes them, as well as to cover them for up to the closeout of the CARES fund budget. Mr. Chair, did I answer the question?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And the question was, though, is that is it, in your opinion, should the Budget and Finance Committee act on this legislation right now, or wait till you get the final accurate information from Baker Tilly, then act on it? That, I believe that was one part of the question also.
Mr. Chair, Budget and Finance Committee and Delegate Brigade, that's the one we're trying to work with the staff. The staff stated to me they are willing to take the challenge of handling the disbursement of the remaining 42 million, and basically to process applications from approximately 90,000 enrolled Navajos that have not been assisted. So OOC is willing to take the challenge. It's just we need additional resources. We need to hire temporary workers. We need to purchase supplies, and also we need to rent an office space. That's the immediate need. And based on my meeting with the staff, the sections that will handle or take over this project, we will be able to get it. The portal will really help us, basically, because we will compare the new applicants to the one that we already assisted. We do have information on the FMIS of the names and amounts of the Navajos that already got hardship 1. It's the process of verifying the new applicants to the list to make sure there's no duplicate assistance given to the people that apply. The legislation is very specific. This 42 million, the hardship 2, is only available to Navajos who have not previously received hardship assistance. So that will be the challenge without the portal. So we really need to get that portal so that we will know that we will not be assisting those recipients of the hardship 1 with this hardship 2. Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that response, Ms. Begay. With this, so back to Budget and Finance Committee members. Do we have any further questions or comments? Vice Chair Smith?
This is
thank you,
Delegate
Chair
Yellen.
Vice Chair Smith?
Thank you, Chair Henio. Committee members, Budget and Finance Committee members, and those listening. And Ms. Begay, I'm trying to wrap this around to where I can understand how this phase 2 is going to work. You're talking about a portal, and that portal does have information for the phase 1, I guess you could say. And that information is pertinent to not having folks that have already been paid for the hardship the first go round. This intent for phase 2 is for those that did not have the opportunity to utilize the first hardship. Now, my question is, who controls the portal? How do we get that portal? Is there a copyright to that portal, or is that not Navajo Nation's property? Or because if we don't get that portal, then we're more or less taking it as a trust system for those that are applying for the phase 2. We need that portal. So how do we ensure we get that portal? Or do we have that portal? And do we have operators that can use that portal? I understand that you want to take the challenge on to the second phase, and the staff has said that they are willing to take that on. But my question is, how do we obtain that portal so that this can be done? Are we going to be passing this legislation here by Friday? And once we pass that legislation, this legislation, and without the portal, will we be waiting on the portal? Or do we have access to the portal right now? That's my concerning question, Chair Henio. Are we pushing this legislation a little too fast to help others? Don't get me wrong, we want to help those that need help, but that portal is making sure that we're not duplicating those that have already been helped and those that have already received funds. That's one of my questions there. The other question I have too is the last CARES Act funding. The legislation said $1,500 for 18 and up, and anybody under 18 was $500. Now, we know that nobody got $1,500, and we know that under 18, nobody got $500. This CARES number 2, do we need to put language in there saying this is the amount is going to be paid for 18 and over at $1,500, no ands, ifs, or buts. And those that are under 18, $500, no ands, ifs, or buts. That language should be in there so there'll be no loophole saying, well, we're only going to pay up to no more than $1,500, like the first CARES dollars that was spent on hardship. Those are my two questions, Chair Henio. If we need to amend that language, I'd like to amend that not on BNF, but during Nabikiatia, to ensure that this second go, those folks that are applying will be getting the $1,500 as the legislation should be saying, and those under 18 will be getting 500 as the legislation states. Thank you, Chair.
Hey, Vice Chair Smith, thank you for those questions. Back to Shananta, Delegate Eugene So and our Acting Controller, Ms. Elizabeth Begay. I know you already answered the first question during your explanation and answered it again from another question that we have, but if you could go and answer that question again from Vice Chair Smith on question number 1, and then also question number 2 also. Shananta, Delegate Eugene So.
Mr. Gay, something which Hanansi answer the question. Thank you. Help me out again.
Thank you, Delegate. So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and the Budget and Finance Committee. As far as the portal, right now we do not have access because Baker Tilly put it on pause. As a result, based on that, we do not have control of the portal. We paid for it though. That's part of Baker Tilly's contract, part of the $12 million that we paid them to date. And they are willing to transfer it to us. It's just they put it on pause, and then we're working on the transfer. Of course, the transfer will include some training on the portal because none of the OOC staff was involved during the implementation of the portal. So that's one area that we need to resolve as well. And we can discuss that with Baker Tilly when we have the telephone conference call tomorrow. As far as the 1,500 and the 500, I believe that was calculated before on the first hardship based on the available funds. But for this hardship 2, there's only 42 million available, and there's 90,000 enrolled needy Navajos that we're anticipating that will apply. So there's really not enough money to assist the applicants of 1,500 or the minor 500. We calculated if we do the prorate as is stated on this legislation on page 7 of 9 under E, it basically states that our office will prorate the distribution to all eligible applicants based on the total balance of the hardship assistance expenditure plan balance, which is we're calculating at 42 million. So given that, we're only calculating 400 something per applicant. It's not enough. Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that response. Ms. Begay. So back to Vice Chair Smith. The explanation, does that help you with your 2 questions that you had?
Chair Henio, yes, thank you for that in-depth answer, Ms. Begay. I appreciate that. However, this legislation seems to be a little misleading then. If we only have 42 million and we're not going to be able to cover those that are going to be requesting assistance. So they're going to be prorated, and we don't even know how much prorate would be allocated to 18 and over and 18 and under. 42 million is not going to cover everybody. I think you said 90,000 is pending for this CARES Act number 2 or phase 2. How do we address that? I know that, I guess I should back up a little bit on this, Eugenio and office controllers. The first phase, that's why I keep saying the first phase. Those that were notified by Baker and Tilley were told that they're going to be paid. How many of them do we know that are still waiting for phase 1? And how much do we have left over from phase 1? Is everything zeroed out? If these folks are waiting in line saying, okay, I did submit my paperwork, I did beat the deadline, and I was notified by Baker and Tilley back then, and they called me, and yet I haven't received a check, and I've been patiently waiting. Is there no funding in the first legislation? Is that what I'm understanding? So therefore, if that's the case, then I heard that those folks that were waiting would have to reapply with the 90,000 folks, and it sounds like they're not going to even be getting anywhere close to $1,400 or $400 some odd dollars as the first CARES phase 1. I think that's how we're putting the timeline. Is that how I understand this, Ms. Begay, acting officer controller? Because these are important, because when I go back to the chapters and I give them a report on this, I need to be concise because I'm sitting on budget and finance. And these are the questions that will be posed to me. So I need to be able to provide that information. And we do need to get that portal. And I think Baker and Tilley should not be putting it on pause. If we bought that with CARES money, that should be something that is non-negotiable. I'm not pointing fingers or not putting the blame on anybody, but this is how I see it. So don't think I'm putting pressure on anybody, but understand what I'm trying to say here on where I'm going with this is that folks are having the second hope, and I appreciate my brother from Chin Lee, Honorable Eugene So, wanting to utilize the 42 million, but in reality, we can't help everybody like we did the first get-go. That's the way I understand it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, for that follow-up question, back to Shinanta Eugene So and our acting controller for the Navajo Nation, Ms. Elizabeth Begay. If you would explain again how the 42 million will be allocated in 2 parts. In one, you explained earlier and during I believe the meeting last week with the Budget and Finance that there was 1,000 applicants that are waiting in line because of issues with their CIB, and those will be the first part of the recipients. And then after that, it'll be opened if that's the way it will go. But please, Gation and Delegate Eugene So.
Oyate, DC, eti nisit ope jail was net osa it's hodi nis age sibiniya binyani nela age at all nis like yellow has saying 0 at all nis so age sibiniya I need your cause not a toy that you need aid. So just let them know we can try to help the others that didn't get it as much as we can. Age sibiniya to Indian doesn't need honestly I navig yachi company. So even go delia on nasana or compensatory age sibiniya khasa what we might not give them all, yes, we did the last time more, but we can at least give them at least enough to get some groceries. Age even had to shop up if it is age been I eat what no big happen to hate and go 8 or you been it's just to satisfy some of these people that at least need to get some grocery or get some water. What the all credit because they will see he told me any unshipped out she's green. It is shipping the okay. She has my interpreter, Mrs. Brown, got anything on it?
This is yellow hair. I'll be like that should not have
Miss Elizabeth DeGay, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and Delegate Delegate Yellow Hair. This particular issue about that 1,000 applicants that met the deadline but have problems with their CIB, it was alluded by Dana earlier on page 5 of 9 of the legislation. Under that N, it stated there that we expended 318 million to date, which includes those timely applications wherein exceptions are still being resolved. And this should be revisited because the 318 million, but as of June 14, it's now 319,532,000 because we're booking the expenditures as the checks are being cashed by the recipients of hardship assistance. So that statement there, it does not include those applications with exceptions, the 1,000. Having said that, maybe Legislative Council can put a statement there that those 1,000 applicants should receive the same amount as the hardship 1 recipients, which is 1,350 for adults and 450 for minors. And for the rest, the wait list and the new applicants, that's the one we can prorate. Mr. Chair.
Star 6 if you're muted.
This is Delegate Yellow Hair.
Okay, there he goes. I need to get me a T-shirt that says "Sorry, I was muted." Budget and Finance Committee. Hopefully that answers some of the questions that we've been asking. Though with this, back to Shananda, Delegate Jamil here.
Okay. Unmuted. Oh, unmuted. I see there's a phone. Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
Star six. Use star six to unmute.
Well, it's not Delegate Jamila here.
Hello?
Are you still
Hello?
with us? Can you hear me?
I'm still here, but can you hear me too?
Oh, I did.
Can you hear me?
Phone, no.
Okay, now.
Oh,
Okay.
we can
Let
hear
me
you now.
start again. Okay, I had an answer to the chair. I don't care about you, peso. Korea, active controller. RB got number one. We can do it to the out of the way that portal we call information that was taken by a Baker Tilly. It was down there, it's on the Navajo Nation. It's about we need to clear this 1,000 out of they didn't met the deadline was passed. They have information still there. 80 can be just be verified. Koro Adlet Hanas on the Baker Tilly. What they have in their roster list that needs to be verified. 9,000, Ninigate on 90,000. It's 9,000. They're on the waiting list right now. 80 Pesako, Entaziagua, there's still a bill at $13 or $14 million left. What could I be the just that the Nathan Neppa, Nishin Hasala being a committee. We're not doing hasting. We're doing the right thing. Jinugo banditi just only banana large Navikia art non bigashnat oni. Abiga Jinugo things if you call it. Let's do it and take care of this. Don't get complicated, Shanant. She is biga Jinon the Hasna urban Nashedo. So what I now thought Nisata Swagi. You know that the Nichutan, but acting control the shape, because green jet is Agdico, he doesn't need Solski. That is total the 1,000, 9,000, a total the balance is not enough to have hours in here. It's all you to that is in the court, or you they trying to meet that, but some of them they never fall over top or a call. I had about 7 or 8 people that they called and they gave me their numbers, their social security numbers. Out of process and heart and they could wonder out of sort of patient many high you got. So right now we're only talking about 1,000 that didn't meet the deadline, 9,000 still on waiting list. So with that, money is not the area Kuroda is Nilgi Tochin that is Yani. I couldn't have killed not all this. The opposite castle as is. You thought bigger, shares bigger, been to Hada era. In a shadow, Jesh, I still not only for top is wood green. Yeah. Solution in Anigi on the Masida. Thank you for the floor. Thank you.
Kushina Galashan Delegate Jamila here. Back to Shananta Budget and Finance Committee. Any further questions or comments on legislation 0094-21?
Chair, this is Delegate Brown.
And Delegate Crotty.
Delegate Nathaniel Brown, we have the floor.
Yeah, thank you again, Budget and Finance Committee. I just want to get something clarified. I know we're talking a lot about the same stuff, we're repeating ourselves. I'm going to relay this message. I'm sitting in the chapter meeting right now in Chilchimbito. And this funding, again, my apologies. I'm repeating some of these questions, but with this CARES Act 2, Phase 2, will it be only for the people who did not apply, or will it be open to everyone? That's, if you can respond, please respond to that. Thank you.
Question again, Shenandoah Delegate Nathaniel Brown for the question. Shenandoah Delegate Amber Kness-Crotty, you have the floor. Shenandoah Delegate Amber Kness-Crotty. Chair Hanyo, this is Vice Chair Smith. Vice Chair Smith.
Well, thank you, Chair Hanyo. I guess I misunderstood. Is it 90,000 or is it 9,000 people that are still waiting? That's where I got confused, Shenandoah. I just wanted to clarify that, Chair Hanyo. And I understand this legislation is to help those that didn't have the ability to get help in the first phase. And I appreciate Shenai for thinking about our folks out there that need this help based off of the CARES. So I do support this legislation. I just want to understand the importance of this and how we're helping our people. So ashini yal tolada ako itzigi yaha peshi benache yaha pesh masaan natinti into dochato peshi to bakaz adot na so da itlai ya benache bakado ekota exposition and okay.
Two questions back to Shenandoah Delegate Eugene. So, I did kid out of not niche out of star 6 Shenandoah. I shouldn't the next vehicle, but I can't hear you on the radio phone.
I refer that back to Mrs. Begay, the acting controller.
Yeah. Thank you, Delegate. So, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Smith, first, the question by Delegate Brown. Yes, this legislation, it's stated on page 7 of 9 under D. It's only for eligible Navajos who have not previously received hardship assistance funds. So that is straightforward, those that were not assisted in the first hardship. And the question of that 9,000 wait list, yeah, that's the wait list, 9,000, and the 92,000 Navajos not assisted include the 9,000 wait list. Mr. Chair.
Okay, back to our acting controller, Ms. Begay. Where are you getting the 90,000 from?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I just basically rounded it off based on the vital records data. There's 399,494 enrolled Navajos, and hardship assistance 1 assisted approximately 308,000 enrolled Navajos. So that leaves 91,494 enrolled Navajos that did not apply or did not get assistance. So based on that, we just rounded it up to 92,000 because according to vital records, since this data is back February 2021, and they received a lot of applicants, meaning a lot of Navajos that have not enrolled are now enrolling. So we just rounded it up to 92,000. And out of that, that 9,000 wait list is included on that 92,000. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you again for that clarification, Ms. Begay. And how you arrived at the vital statistics number. But this back to committee, Budget and Finance Committee. Are there further questions or comments?
This is Delegate Cardi with a question.
Shananta, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the questions and the answers. I just need to know from this legislation, the action we're taking is all of this money will go to hardship disbursement, or is some of this money going to be used for administrative costs, whether that's what's owed to Baker Tilly, or I did hear Acting Controller mentioned the FMIS consultant. In our budget, we give them like almost $2 million to assist with Navajo Nation budget. So I'm assuming there's a charge. And then looking at the Office of the Controller's personnel, it looks like there's only 3 people in their FMIS unit. And I did hear they would need additional temporary workers, supplies, a business office. Does that mean we're going to be delaying payment to these individuals who are on the waiting list? I'm just trying to be very clear here in terms of what our expectations are and how we move forward with assisting our people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Shananta, for that question. And I will defer this back to Ms. Navajo Nation, our Acting Controller, Ms. Navajo Nation, Ms. Elizabeth Begay, the long day. Ms. Elizabeth Begay, if you would provide a response.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Delegate Crotty. Yeah, all the unexpended monies under the CARES Fund revert to hardship assistance budget, and it will be expended only for hardship assistance. No admin costs. Basically, we will be paying out of our operating budget all the costs. We already identifying personnel savings that we can transfer to line item temporary workers or college interns. And for the operating, we're identifying some savings in our operating line item that will pay for the additional costs that we'll incur for this hardship assistance too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that response, Ms. Begay. So with this response and all the questions that were answered, our Budget and Finance Committee, are we ready to vote here? Any further questions or comments?
Delegate to Chair, this is Delegate Yellow here. Abigan since Areta in the Biga dot Ijipo never car teacher on in the church. So that just when a clean house now, they want clean up the book out of 1,000 over didn't meet the deadline. It get I able to that yours 9,000 not so on us the land clean clean up out of addition because out of father in that and they to try out because keep that a coti out is young bigger or is your friend each other but a cushion wants about see yeah no it's not only thank you just delegate your hair.
Budget and Finance Committee, any further questions or comments? Then I'll call for the question. Ramona, if you would lead us in the roll call vote for 0094-21.
Sure, Chairman Henyo. Roll call vote for legislation number 0094-21. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
3.
Thank you. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
I vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Elmer P. Begay votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty, how do you vote? Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty, how do you vote? Chairman, we have 4 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, chairman not voting, and 1 member not voting, Chairman.
Oh, this is Delegate Crotty. I vote green.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Amber Kenneth-Bott Crotty votes green. Chairman, we have 5 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, chairman not voting, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Ramona, for that roll call vote, and therefore it's legislation 0094-21-21 gets a do pass. 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Here had not Delegate Eugene So. We're both parked here in the Chambers parking lot, so I think he's happy. I can hear him laughing. With this, we are done with this new business. And next item is close the session.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn by Vice Chair Smith. Is there a second?
Delegate Elmer P.
Yellowhair.
Delegate Elmer P. Begay. Motion by Vice Chair Raymond Smith Jr. and second by Delegate Elmer P. Begay. With this, committee members, thank you. And with this, Ramona will lead us in a roll call vote to adjourn.
Mayor, thank you. Interruption. I think Dana has an announcement for the committee.
Dana, do you have an announcement?
Thank you. This is just a heads up, and it came out of a call yesterday. The nation's internal auditors, Moss Adams, has needed to add some additional test procedures because of last month's issues surrounding the controller. And as you recall, the Budget and Finance Committee is statutorily named as the Audit Committee. So one of the additional procedures is that the Moss Adams will want to meet individually with each of the Audit Committee members. So that would mean each of the Budget and Finance Committee members to discuss internal controls. They will coordinate with Peggy to set up those meetings. They can either be in person. My understanding, Moss Adams will be up here next week, or they can be teleconference meetings. Moss Adams doesn't think any of them will take very long, maybe 30 minutes, no more than an hour. The other item is that to meet the various audit deadlines, the Moss Adams needs to report to the Budget and Finance Committee before the audit is finalized and put in front of council, and they would like to do a work session in person during the week of August 9th. So that's the information I have to share. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, Dana, for that announcement, and we'll work with Peggy as far as scheduling. And if you're in contact with Moss Adam, tell them not to skip out on the meetings anymore, because I came up here, I was all ready to meet with them, and they skipped out on me, which is not good.
Not good.
Any other announcements?
Chair Henio, this is Vice Chair Smith.
Vice Chair Smith, when's the lucky day? Let us know.
Chair Henio, this is Moss Adams. Why they want to just meet individually? I mean, we're the oversight for, and it seems to be one-on-one. Why not just have everybody there to ask questions and get a gist of what's going on and bring it forth? Why do they want to just do it one-on-one? I mean, what's the purpose of that? I just don't understand that. That's going to take some time, because there's 6 of us, and if we all schedule it at a different interval, they may just skip out on us and say, well, we offered that date and the delegate wasn't available, and we weren't available to provide that information. Oh, what the? Just not the Shananda. Thank you.
Thank you. Dana?
Thank you. Vice Chair Smith, that would really be a question for Moss Adams, but long ago in my past, I was a CPA and an auditor, and I would, and my experience from that, I would say that meeting with you individually is not a unique practice, and it seems to be a legitimate procedure. But I don't know what questions they'll ask, so that is probably you'll get a more thorough response from Moss Adams. I feel like here I am basically the messenger. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Dana. So, Budget and Finance Committee, Dana is just a messenger relaying a message. So we'll get more information through Peggy from Moss Adams. Shananda, Delegate Elmer P. Begay.
Can I speak to Henio?
Oh, hello.
Henio.
Hey, let us know. Delegate Elmer Begay, are you there?
I speak to Henio.
Yep.
Okay. Krishna, very quickly, today, like I said, you know, that over by the home place, Sitsoket and Lord, my grandkids, I greet them as my grandkids go. They're doing a ceremony for rain. They call it the Hannis. There's a lot of elderlies, you know, that from Tisto, and then also from Indian Wells. I don't know how they're doing they did them to DJ. I was over there this morning. They later for rain and they later. Area called my grandkids and then Marrow Soul, another one of the holidays, John Holiday. The church cat and later the apprentice and Linda from Kienta. Later, in the house, I'm pretty sure by my little brother, Nate Brown, she on the Hada, the Eastern side there. Area, the Dalcon area, I did that for As I later, so just wanted to just stop by, and then I told him that he's like later this Bedini, so I don't have to dish also. So I just want to let them know. I would tell us, thank you.
Diga hey Shinanda. Aquí halang Spanish. Chilingani. Aquí le. Benacha ya kudoy daini lido. Shinanda. Any further announcements? Budget and Finance Committee.
Can I say something?
Peggy, you have the floor.
Chair Hemio, members of the Budget and Finance Committee. Tomorrow's PTF Citizen Projects meeting is still on. It's going to be at the NECA conference room, and it's also going to be on Zoom. So you go in and meet with the committee. You're welcome to do that. And I sent out the notices today and the agenda email. So at Shiprock tomorrow at the NECA conference room is where we're going to be meeting at.
Is that by what they call the Fairchild Building?
NECA is let's see. It's as you drive north into Shiprock, it's side, I remember. I don't remember what the address is, but maybe somebody does, but it's not.
It's on a road called Uranium Way. So when you're driving in, you'll pass what we call the Fairchild Building. And it's right at the corner of the fairgrounds. Maybe, Peggy, what would be good is if you could send out a Google link. That'd be great.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you for that. So by committee members, for those that are traveling to Shiprock, it'd be right before the fairgrounds. You pass the fairgrounds, you've gone too far, and turn around. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, any further announcements, committee members, before I call for the question to adjourn?
This is Delegate Yellow here. Chair,
yes,
so as the acting controller, we must meet investments committee. The update auditor done. Then again, call the meeting investments committee. Once about still make it short. No. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Eugene So.
Oh, Shinanda, Delegate Eugene So.
She say in the great store I have a house, a weekend house. I go back over there on the weekend. There's a fire going, so the wife answers she said, I said, no. I called her. I'm trying to figure out if it's going to get worse or not. A decreased condition starting to rain, something that I didn't need Elmer Yan has snacky. They're getting it ready for the whole Michiko Adika that is next the truck. Even yes, I had to never and the house had not add. Nasden be got to add. I say you don't have the spring. The adding and not right out asking to cut. If it all gets better, how all the thing when we date everything and time and everything. So thank you.
Any further announcements? We do have a motion and second to adjourn. Ramona, if you would lead us on roll call vote to adjourn.
Vote for the adjournment. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr., how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair, how do you vote?
I'll vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Honorable Elmer P. Begay, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Elmer P. Begay votes green. Honorable Amber Kennesbot-Crotty, how do you vote?
Delegate Amber Kennesbot-Crotty votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Member Kenneth Bach Crotty votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, how do you vote?
Delegate Brown votes green.
Nathaniel Brown votes green. Chairman, we have 5 members voting in the affirmative, 0 opposing, chairman not voting. Chairman?
Thank you for that roll call vote. Yeah, now we are adjourned. 5 in favor, 0 opposed. It is 5:20 p.m. And thank you, everybody, Chinanta, Budget and Finance Committee, and all those that were on the call listening. Thank you for being with us.
Chairman Henio, I have a question.
Mr. Dominic Bial, sir.
Thank you, sir. The BNF meeting, is it still on for Thursday on the FY22 budget subject?
There was no request submitted to speaker for a meeting on Thursday.
We were told by Legislative Counsel's office it's Thursday.
Peggy?
Chair and members of the Finance Committee, I wasn't told that there was a meeting or anything like that. There's not been a request made to the Speaker's office. So the committee hasn't acted on requesting that meeting. I don't know if you want to schedule that. I know that the Nobby's meeting that day. Nobby's having their meeting. So who is the sponsor of the legislation?
Delegate Crotty.
Shadeja, are you available on Thursday to have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting to provide your legislation to the committee? I mean, that's what we would have to do. Maybe meet around 8 o'clock or something like that, Thursday morning. Or tomorrow, oh, it goes live Thursday, I think, is it? I thought I saw something about that.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm still on the line too, listening to Delegate Yellow here.
Chair Henio, are you still on the call? Because I don't see you. Vice Chair Nidatsa.
I'm listening. Vice Chair still here.
Vice Chair, this is Dana. If I could, please. I don't feel like Office of Legislative Counsel said the legislation had to be heard on Thursday. What the legislation is it's adopting the three-branch chiefs budget agreement or projected revenue distributions. We were just told by according to the budget calendar, that the legislation had to be heard this week. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you for that clarification, Dana. So I guess there's no meeting, apparently. No request put in.
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Dominic Bial. The various schedules, timetables that I've been giving to the BNF committee, the last one mentions that the BNF should meet either the 24th or 25th. So that's what we're anticipating. We're working to meet that schedule. The legislation was dropped last Friday, so the 5 days would run tomorrow, meaning Thursday or Friday. It's ready to be considered, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Dominic. During the time that we were adopting the agenda, wish that was brought forth so that we could act upon it.
but nobody was speaking on it when we were talking about the agenda. And now we're at this point in time where I'm the only one that's listening in, and I understand that the schedule has been brought forth to the Budget and Finance, and legislation's been dropped, but there's no request for any meeting for BNF either Thursday or Friday.
The 3 branch chiefs are aware of it. They were following the schedule, including the speaker.
Vice Chair Smith, this is Delegate Crotty. Can, as co-sponsor of the legislation, may I make a request to meet on Thursday so that we can move forward with the legislation? Maybe a suggestion is before Navajo. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's scheduled at 10. Maybe we could meet at 8 if I could make that request. I know there was a late request for this meeting, and we were able to come together. So maybe, I'm not sure if Chairman Henyo is still in the Window Rock area.
Peggy, you still on board here? You listening in?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Could you text Chair Henyo and let him know where we're at with this, and as what Honorable Crotty had mentioned, and see where we head out with this? We could entertain this before Nabakiat. Yes, that's a possibility, but I don't know if we'll have a quorum on our schedule. Everybody seems to be very busy, but this is imperative on behalf of getting that legislation heard. Like I said, I wish that was brought forth during the time that we were talking about the agenda this morning, or this afternoon, but that's water under the bridge. So see if we can get a hold of Chair Henyo and see what we can pull out of our hat. Thank you.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and see what he says, and then I will need to get one of you to sign the memo if you're available. And that way we can process the memo in time. And then I need to do an agenda real quick, because tomorrow we're on travel status from here. And we're going to miss all the deadlines and stuff. If it's possible, you know, somebody can come up and sign the memo, or I can just get authorization to sign it and put it over at Speaker's office, because I'm leaving here around 7 o'clock in the morning to go to Shiprock.
Travel is. Who's going where? What's going on?
Tomorrow is the meeting on the Shiprock Hotel, Sha'a and Personville that I'll need. So I've arranged the NECA conference room for that meeting, and it's still going to be on Zoom. But, you know, since you guys asked for an in-person meeting, I have to take the, you know,